was signed P from SF.
Okay.
That's all I got. Actually, I've got more, but that's how he signed it, so.
All right.
That's all I'm going to say. The Witness finally released. This is actually one of last week's emails that I had held over for this week. The Witness finally releases on Tuesday for the price of $40. While I've got no problem paying that amount, there has been a lot of debate on ye olde internet about whether an independently developed game distributed digitally is allowed to command that price.
What?
Jesus.
At times, it sounds like a number of people complaining are fearful of higher-priced, independently developed games, whether digital or retail, not because the games themselves aren't providing value, but rather because it's encroaching on pricing territory that they've been trained to see as the cream of the crop in terms of what the industry produces, as if a $40 Witness somehow cheapens their $60 purchase from a major publisher. Given the proliferation of independent studios and the democratization of development tools, I imagine we'll continue to see more and more games that challenge this notion of what constitutes a AAA game, and therefore take aim at the go-to premium price for such a product. What are your personal red lines for game pricing? Does a game's marketing budget entitle it to a $60 price tag? Regardless of content, do any of you have biases that you feel prevent you from paying more than X for an indie game or puzzle game or RPG, etc.?
This is something that when we had Iron Galaxy's Dave Lang on the show that he kind of hinted at happening more and more, is that notion of, and I've heard other people use the term, and I think it's a dumb term, triple I, triple indie, that, like, if you think about it, through the over the course of the 360 era of last generation, we lost those kind of smaller B game, like lower tier retail games. And what's happening now is that the smaller indie games are growing up to fill that gap. So you'll have the games that are still in that kind of smaller, more traditional digital price range of 10 to 15 to 20. And then I think you'll start to actually see more games that are trying to play around with price and starting to do this stuff at 40 or thereabouts.
I guess the big difference was last generation or even 2 generations ago, like the medium tier games were still $60.
Right.
Because that's all they could be.
Exactly. Yeah. The prices were protected by the console manufacturers.
So if anything, like, this is better. If you're getting games of that caliber for less than full retail,
right? And it's one of those things where I get it. Like people don't want things to see things get more expensive, and the retail price point is held for so long that even that gets played around with more on the lower end.
Right.
The higher end is where you end up getting a bunch of garbage. Like, here's a fucking statue and a helmet that you can't wear,
or here's a bare bones multiplayer game with a $50 season pass.
Right. Yeah.
Or something.
For me, it breaks down to just hours. How many hours of enjoyment you can get out of something. Like, I love The Witness, and I know I'll probably spend a few dozen hours with it. I don't give a shit how much the marketing budget was or how big the team was. It's just, okay, $40 for like 40 hours of gameplay sounds completely fair to me.
Also, I think the marketing budget for The Witness is probably pretty low. It's just been him out there talking it up and people covering it, right?
I just don't know why that should factor into your thoughts on the price or anything. Or why.
I don't know.
But also, I would argue that hours is probably a bad metric also.
It can be a useful metric. I feel like, if you want to, like, contextualize it next to, like, movie going or something.
But,
But also,
but it's
like,
not the end all be all.
No, absolutely not. And, like, I feel like Limbo was a random early example of a game that, like, disabused me of the notion of, like, it has to be X number of hours or I don't feel satisfied. Yeah. It was because that was like a 3-hour game, but it were 3 very valuable hours, and that's all I needed.
Like, I bought Golden Axe for way too much money for the Genesis and finished it the day I bought it and was pissed. I bought Super Mario Brothers 2 and finished it the day I got it and was fucking pissed. Right. Except it was awesome, so I played it over and over again. Like the notion of, like, these full price games that are not lasting a day is if anything, gaming got away from that. As time went on, and now it just seems like there are different games at different price points, and I think it has to be a case by case basis of like, do you think this product is worth this much money? Based on what's there, yes or no, and it's who made it and where it came from, and if it's indie or not, like, that's useless. Like, who cares?
Yeah, I guess when you say it that way, maybe hours isn't the end all be all for me, because I think of Journey and Gone Home, and I loved both of those.
Yeah,
I beat them both in one sitting, and I didn't really worry about how much they cost at all.
Right? Yeah, exactly. And like I think the hour count and price sensitivity stuff. I think those are two things that go way up with people who. Who don't buy a lot of games, who can't buy a lot of games. They see this happening and go like, well, wait, why would I pay full price for a game that I can, the Call of Duty campaign is so short and blah, blah, blah. All these campaigns are so short now. What happened to my 80-hour RPGs? And, like there's kind of that mentality, which I get. I mean, like I, spent a long time not being able to, to afford a lot of games. It's, you want to buy games that last. That's why, that's where every little bit of my animosity for games like Strider and Super Metroid came from. Was this idea that like these are just too short. Like I went and paid a full retail, in Strider's case, $80.
Yeah. That was $80 in 1989 or 1990 money.
And I was fucking just out of junior high, and fucking that, like whatever the going rate for games was way expensive. To be able to fucking put together $80 for a game that I fucking took home and immediately finished.
Yeah.
That fucking sucked. So like I understand why there are people that kind of look to those as meaningful metrics, because it's like they want to play video games for a long time.
Hey, 8 mega.
I did not. That was not. It was not $10 a megabit. That was a bad value.
Yeah,
Strider is a bad value.
Yeah, you're probably right.
The NES version, however, was a big adventure. You went around, you got to explore this world and go to different places.
I thought the
non-linear.
I thought the video we did of NES Strider a while back amended your view of NES Strider.
Look,
maybe not quite as sound as you thought it was.
I'm not saying it was a great game. I'm saying it aged pretty poorly, but it's still like Bionic Commando did more with the home version than the arcade version.
You're absolutely right about that. I mostly liked this email because I thought it was kind of an interesting idea that he had, that people might feel like there's some tension between the $60 big publisher game and smaller games made by smaller teams, but moving into that pricing space. The idea of devaluing a $60 game, like a Call of Duty style game, because this other game is a very different kind of thing, but it's getting close in price,
Sure.
Like it's
like that it might erode the price, the value of a Call of Duty or some of those other games.
Right. I don't know if I don't know if he's onto anything or not.
I don't know.
It's an interesting way to look at it. Like there's a lot of weird psychology wrapped up in people's response to the price of The Witness.
Or just prices in general.
Well, I guess The Witness is just more of an extreme example of that.
Right.
And the kind of reaction that it elicited in people.
I will say that to me that game seems like it is easily worth $40.
Yeah. Although I mean that's a different conversation now that we've all played it.
Sure.
This was prior to release when they announced the price and nobody knew exactly what was in there.
Hence why reviews still hold some amount of value in video games where they might not in music and movies.
Yes, indeed.
Or hold less. I guess I shouldn't totally discount. I think movie reviews are dumb.
Well, they're certainly a lot more subjective.
Yes.
Because you generally know how long you're going to be sitting in the theater seat.
Yeah. And the price is usually mostly fixed.
Yes. Indeed. Although first time I saw Star Wars like 3 days after it came out for $6 and couldn't fucking believe it. In the middle of San Francisco.
Like a matinee?
Yeah. It's like a Sunday matinee for $6.25. Huh. It was ridiculous.
It seems almost illegal.
I know. I thought I was getting away with something. It was bizarre.
Did you watch it in the back of a van?
Let's not talk about that.
All right.
Galen from Seattle.